Welcome back, everyone. For today's video, we are back with day number 2 of the Esports World Cup being held here in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Now, yesterday in the initial stage of the group qualification, I got off to a very good start by beating Yavok Sindarov before losing to Ali Reza Fruja. So what this means is that today I'm playing one match. If I win the match, I go through to the quarterfinals, the last 8 of the chess portion of this competition. And if I lose, I am simply done, finished. There are no more opportunities for me to continue playing with a shot at the grand prize of $250,000. So without further ado, let's jump right into the action. Now, the format is the exact same as before. It is a best of 2, 1 game with white, 1 game with black. If we're tied, we go to the dreaded or perhaps exciting Armageddon. So, first game of the match, I'm playing against a Chinese player, Wei Yi, who actually won a very nice match against Yavok Sindarov to earn the right to face me with the chance to move on. So first game, I have the white pieces. I start out with d4. We got the move knight to f6. And here I play the move c4, e6, g3, d5, and knight to f3. Now this, of course, is the classic Catalan system with g3, the idea being that you want to fianchetto the bishop to g2. So Wei Yi goes bishop b4. Now this move took me by surprise a little bit. It's not what I was expecting. I expected Wei Yi to play bishop e7 and play a more classical system like he did against me in Norway chess earlier this year. Instead, we got the move bishop to b4. Now I play bishop d2, Wei Yi goes a5, and here I play the move pawn to a3. Now there's nothing wrong with this move specifically, but it's simply not the most testing approach. Probably here I should either go queen to c2, guarding the pawn, or bishop g2, simply gambiting the pawn on c4 temporarily. So I go a3. We got bishop e7, queen c2, guarding the pawn on c4, and now Wei Yi plays move c6. I go bishop g2, castles, castles, b6, and now I play the move bishop f4. Wei Yi goes bishop a6, pressuring this pawn on c4, and here I play the move knight b to d2. So after I play knight b d2, we got the move knight b to d7, and now I play the move rook f to c1. Now this move is actually not the best move in the position, but when I played this move, I was trying to move very quickly, but I also had a concept in mind, which we're about to see, was simply wrong. Now, the reason I played rook f-c1 versus rook a-c1 is that when Wei Yi plays the move rook c8, which is what I expected, I now played the move b4 here, hoping for pawn takes pawn, opening up the file to attack this bishop on a6. So Wei Yi plays move knight to h5. I go bishop e3, and now Wei Yi plays move pawn c5. I take, he takes, and here I play the move pawn to b5. Now, this is a very tough spot to be in here because I'm down a minute on the clock at this moment, but I don't know exactly what my plan is. Now, I could spend 2 or 3 minutes trying to work out a very concrete line here, or I can move very quickly trying to keep the game going. So I play b5, we get bishop b7, and now I play this move knight to e1. Now this move is a mistake here by me, but I think the reasoning behind it is very sound. I was worried that if I play what the computer likes, which is pawn to a4 here, that black can go d4 here. Apparently I've got bishop g5, and I'm a little bit better due to being able to pressure this pawn on the edge of the board in the long term. It's a very complicated line. I'm a little bit surprised to see the computer thinks that white is better here, but apparently this would be okay. But again, the problem with these situations here is I have to make a quick decision or I have to spend a lot of time. And I go with my gut that it's better to move quickly, even if you don't play the best moves, versus spending a lot of time. Because if you don't find that precise line, you will have burned time, and time pressure is looming as there is no added time in any of these games. So I go knight e1 here, opening up the diagonal. Wei Yi goes knight f6 back. I play bishop g5, and now we get to move knight to b6. Here I play the move knight to d3, and this is simply a bad move here. Once again, I could have played this move pawn to a4, fixing this weak pawn on a5 to be pressured by this pony down the road, but instead I go knight d3. Wei Yi plays h6, I trade, I go rook b1, and now Wei Yi plays this move a4. And I really love this move because now the knight is guarding this pawn, and my knight can no longer go to this b3 square anymore. And already here with black having the 2 b's and this great knight position on this b6 square, I was already feeling the heat and in serious, serious trouble. So I play the move knight b2. We get a repetition here, I go back, and now Wei Yi decides to play the move bishop takes knight. Now, had Wei Yi played the move rook to a8, most likely I would have gone back forcing the draw, but Wei Yi decides to play on by trading instead. I take with a queen, we get queen to e7, and now I decide to trade the pawns and go e3. Here, Wei Yi plays rook f d8, and now I make a mistake when I play this move rook to e1. Now, the position here is relatively okay for me. It's not the end of the world by any stretch of the imagination, but the big issue here is that, as you can tell, Wei Yi is moving very quickly. I'm already down 30 seconds here. Wei Yi has obvious ideas like c4, d4, so I need to move quickly, try to get back in the game on the clock, and when I try to do that, I start making some mistakes. So I go rook e1. We get c4. I play queen c3. Wei Yi goes knight d7. And now I play this move knight to f3. Now, if I had time, I probably would have spotted the best move, which is bishop to h3, pinning this knight here on d7. After rook to c7, let's say I take. Apparently, after d4, black is marginally better. But let's say black were to take the bishop. Now I can go knight f3 and knight d4 here. And white is actually probably a little bit better because this bishop on b7 is simply a very passive piece. So instead I play knight f3. Now again, I'm trying to move quickly here because I can feel the impending danger of the time scramble looming here. We get knight c5, knight d4, knight b3, and now I play knight f5. Wei Yi goes queen f8, and here I play this move rook e d1. Now this move is simply a bad move, but I was struggling to come up with a plan. Now, I probably should have played this move h4, because after g6, knight d4, and queen to a3, we get a position very similar to the game, but here I have rook to a1, or the idea of h5 here, trying to reach a square f5, or reach the f5 square with the knight once again. Very tough to find with not a lot of time on the clock, and ultimately, I play the move rook e d1, because I'm simply starting to feel the panic coming on. We get g6, knight d4, takes, I have rook to a1, a cool move to attack the queen. The queen drops back, we get takes, rook to a1, and here Wei Yi plays move queen b3. Now this move is a very, very serious error from Wei Yi. Wei Yi is up a pawn here. My hope in this position was that basically after rook a8 and rook a d1, black has an extra pawn on c4, but with the double stack and this bishop pressuring the pawn, I probably should have enough counterplay to draw. But more importantly, I also can move very quickly here because my ideas are very simple. I play e4, I play h4. There isn't really a whole lot in this position, whereas black has to worry about the pawn while trying to find a way to create a pass pawn on the queen side. So, I was already feeling kind of better about the position here because I'm up 20 seconds, time pressure's looming, but Wei Yi plays the dream move here for me. He goes queen b3, which means I trade, I play rook b4, pressuring the bishop and the pawn, and after bishop c6 and rook takes b3, I am no longer down material, and not only am I no longer down on material, I have this pressure point on d5 to go after. I'm up 20 seconds on the clock, and I'm going to say that if this was young Karu playing, I would win this game with near certainty. Unfortunately, I'm no longer super young. I'm almost 38 years old now, and even though I still have great speed, I wasn't convinced that I would find a way to win. So you get rook d6. I go rook d3, rook d8, rook d1, f5, rook d4, and we simply play a few moves here, and I go h4. Wei Yi plays king e5. I go rook b6 here, trying to pressure both the pawn and the pieces on the 6th rank with the classic kebab. We get rook d7. I play rook a6, and here Wei Yi plays the move rook b7. Now, what's really tragic about chess is sometimes when your opponent plays a move, you can sense there's something, but you don't use your time to work it out, and this is sadly a moment where it occurs. I played the move rook to d1 here, and as soon as I played this move, I realized immediately what I had missed. Now, what I should have done here is I should have traded the pawns on g5, played the move f4, and after takes, and king to e6 here, I can sack the rook with rook takes bishop, and after takes, king to d6 here, I can simply take, and after king to f2, with the king here being cut off from the d file here, the king unable to get back into the action, this is simply a cleanly winning rook and pawn endgame. So as soon as I played rook d1, I realized it. Wei Yi plays rook b2, and for a second, I now thought that I was winning once again by playing f4. But once I played f4, Wei Yi traded, went king e6. I came very close to playing rook takes bishop, sacking the rook, but had I done this, black can actually sack his own rook with rook takes bishop to check the king, and this is simply a drawn endgame with rook and 3 pawns each. So, after king to e6, I play this move bishop to f3 here. Wei Yi goes bishop e7. I play rook a7. At this point, I'm up 15 seconds on the clock, and I'm kind of trying here to basically create some tricks to win the game. So we go rook d2, rook b3, king e2, more dilly-dallying. We get rook d6, bishop d1, rook b4, rook a4, and now Wesley, I don't know why I started to say Wesley, Wei Yi decides to trade the rooks. I take, we get rook a6, and now I play the move bishop c2. Wei Yi plays rook to c6 back. If Wei Yi were to play rook a2, trying to pin the bishop on c2 here, I can sack the bishop checking the king, which creates the fossil, and after king takes bishop, rook takes rook, I have a rook for a bishop, and I will win the game. So Wei Yi plays rook to c6, I go bishop d1, rook c3, rook b2, bishop c6, rook b6, and now Wei Yi plays king d6. Now I'm still up 10 seconds here, but the problem is the position is simplifying. So I go rook a6, king c5, and now I play this horrible move rook to a7. What I should have played here was the very simple move bishop to a4, forcing a trade of the bishops. This is still a drawn position, but if I do this, there is no risk of losing the game. Instead, I go rook a7, and now after the move d4, takes. If anybody is to be careful here, it's white, due to the fact that black is a very active king. This pawn is very weak. My king is kind of cut off here, so black, if anybody, has a chance to win. So I go rook to a5 here, and now after king to e4, suddenly I'm going to lose the pawn on f4, and it's very, very dicey. So I go king to e2 here. When I play king to e2 at this point, I'm basically admitting that I've messed up, and now I'm going full-on mode for the big cheese. We get takes, king d2, rook c4, and now I play the move bishop to e2. What Wei Yi checks, king c3, rook to d5, and now I play the move rook to a7. Wei Yi goes rook e5, bishop c4, and after king to e3, it's suddenly, spaghetti-o time. Black is pushing P with the f-pawn, marching up the board here, and at this point, my only saving grace, potentially, is that Wei Yi has 12 seconds left. So I go rook c7, we get bishop d5, I play bishop a6 here. Apparently, I should have played rook to c5, but I go bishop a6. We get f4, rook c8, f3, rook f8, f2, and now I play the move king b4. Wei Yi plays rook e4, I go king c5, and here Wei Yi blunders with the move rook to f4. Now, Wei Yi only has 9 seconds left here, but had he played a move like rook to e5 back, after king d6 and rook to e6 here, winning the bishop, black would win the game. If I go to b4, black can go bishop to f3 with the idea of promoting the pawn, and black should win. But Wei Yi plays rook to f4, and I think when Wei Yi played this move, he simply missed the fact that when I trade the rooks, I can take this bishop, as my bishop now covers the f1 square. We get king g4, king e4, takes f3, I bring my pieces back, and here we get this move bishop d1, king h8, and after king takes h4, a very, very eventful first game ends in a draw. Now, this game is very hard to judge because I was obviously worse out of the opening and into the middle game. On the other hand, I missed a clean win with this f4 move, but then by the end, I also probably should have lost the game. So it was a very, very topsy-turvy affair, and it feels like on some level, a draw is the fair result. So now we move to game number 2. Now in game number 2, this is the elimination game. If anybody wins this game, they move on to the last 8 in the event, and if whoever loses will be eliminated. So Wei Yi goes e4. I play e5, knight f3, knight f6, essaying the classic Petrov's defense, and now Wei Yi plays d4. I take, we got takes, d5, knight d2, queen d7, bishop d3, knight c5, bishop e2, knight e6, and now Wei Yi plays move knight f1. As you may recall, yesterday against Yavokir Sindarov castled his king here, but in this position, Wei Yi decides to activate this knight to e3 or g3 immediately before castling the king. So I go knight c6. We get knight g3. I play b6, castles, bishop to b7. Here I'm fianchettoing my bishop to b7 with the intention of trying to castle my king right away. We get c3, and here I play this move g6. Now, probably I should have just castled my king, but I play g6 because it's a multi-purpose move. First of all, the pawn stops the pony from jumping to either of these two squares here. Knight is glued, but also I can fianchetto my other bishop to pressure this pawn in the center of the board. So we get rook e1. I move my bishop, pressuring the pawn with the bishop and the knight. We get bishop b5, and now I play the move a6. Wei Yi goes bishop d3, and I finally decide here to castle my king to the queen side. Now, on first glance, this might look a little bit scary as the bishop is spying this pawn here, but what I realized right away is that I have ideas like f6 to open up the center of the board, rook to e8 to pressure the pawn, knight c5, and to me, it felt like it was adequate counterplay. So Wei Yi goes b4. Now I play this move d4, very thematic move, trying to open up the d file for the double stack, open up all the diagonals here, and at this point, white is actually just lost in this position. Now, the main reason white's lost, if white were to play a move like b3 and I go d4 here, white can always play the move c4, but because the pawn is on b4, if you go c4 here, you simply hang the pawn, and with it, you should lose the game. So Wei Yi goes b5, I trade, I take, queen b3, and now I play this move king to b8. Now I was very proud of this move here because I spent over 1 minute on this move. I was trying to make this move queen to d5 work, but after bishop c4, queen to a5, while this is probably good for black, it feels very, very messy. So I go king b8, and the reason behind this move is that if I were to play knight d4 right away, white can take the queen here, checking the king, so that I cannot capture the white queen. And when I go king b8, let's just say white plays h3, now I can play knight to d4, because after bishop takes queen, it is no longer a check on my king. And after takes here, black is simply up one pawn in this position and will go on to win. So we get queen takes pawn, and now I play the move knight to d4 here, trying to open up the center. Apparently, knight takes e5 is a very cool queen sack, which would win the game. But I thought knight d4 was more than enough here, because after takes, we get bishop b2, takes, rook d5, takes, f4. And after rook to d3, rook c1, and rook d8, we're now in an endgame where I have the double stack on the open lane, and I have the two bishops, or the bishop pair, as well. So no risk, only chances to win. And I'm feeling very good about myself because that time is about even to boot. So we get knight e4. I go bishop h6, g3, bishop to f8 here. Now I'm trying to reroute the b's to target this king on this diagonal. And here we get the move king f2. I play king b7, rook c2, h6, rook e3, and now I play the move rook d1. Wei Yi goes g4. I play bishop to e7 here. Now the bishops are super active. The rooks can also swing over. All of white's pieces here are misplaced, and at this point, I was already thinking about the next match and the fact that I was headed to the final 8. Now, this, of course, is a very big psychological mistake, because the moment that you start to think that you have the whole thing wrapped up in one, that is exactly when you let your guard down and you start to make mistakes. So we get rook e2. I play bishop h4, Wei Yi plays knight g3, and now I play the move rook a to d3, intending to create all kinds of threats on this third rank with the b's and the rook. We get rook to e3, and now I correctly spot the winning line, rook to h1. Knight can't take the rook due to the pin. Wei Yi goes king e2, and I saw the move rook takes pawn. This is a temporary sack of the rook. And after king takes rook, I have bishop b5, checking the king. King's got to go. I take the rook, and now I'm up a pawn in the endgame. I have 5 pawns. I still have the 2 b's on the board here, and everything is looking very rosy. So we get a3. I play c5. We get king to d5. I play rook g2, bishop e1, and now I play the move king c7. Wei Yi goes f5, and here I make a terrible decision when I play this move bishop to g5. Not so much the position isn't still winning, but what I should have done is I very simply should have traded the pawns on f5 and gone bishop g5. And the big reason I should have done this is that you'll notice there's this pawn on f7, which stops the white king from trying to enter in the center of the board. And now I can check the king and force this king backwards, and I should just be winning very cleanly. But instead, of course, I play bishop g5, Wei Yi takes a pawn, and now I play the move pawn takes pawn. This, too, is a mistake. I should play bishop c6, checking the king back, and after f takes g6, I'm still in great shape to win the game. But no, instead I take the pawn, and now after rook to c3, what I realized here is suddenly this white king is escaping. It's going to e6 and f7 with the idea of pushing this pawn forward, and it's getting very tricky to play. So I go rook g1. We got bishop f2, rook g2, bishop e1, and now I play the move bishop to f4, because obviously here with the 2 b's, an extra pawn, and the fact that I'm up 30 seconds on the clock, there is no way I want to take a draw. So I go bishop f4. Wei Yi plays king to e6, and now I play the move bishop d7, king f6, and here I play this move bishop g5. Now this move is simply a panic move. Had I played the move bishop takes g4, there is no doubt that I would have been well on my way to a victory. I was actually worried about e6 here with white pushing the pawn, but after h5, e7, and bishop to d7, black is simply stopping the pawn, and there are no issues whatsoever. But again, time pressure is creeping here. I'm starting to get nervous, and I play check, takes, bishop g4, and now Wei Yi goes king f7 anyway, trying to push his e-pawn through. Now at this point, I'm up 14 seconds. Time is ticking down. I've just got to go. So I play this move h5 here after a 23-second thing, and this move is just a bad decision. If I'm going to go h5, I should play it right away, because after e6, now I'm suddenly down on the clock. I'm down 9 seconds here. No increment. There's a very serious chance that I could end up losing the game. So I go h4. We get the move knight to e4. I check. King f8. I check. King e7, and now I play the move rook to e2, trying to win the bishop or the knight. Now, at first glance, this looks like a great move, but Wei Yi correctly sacks the knight with knight takes pawn, and here I just panic completely, and I take this knight on c5. Now, had I played the move bishop g5, checking the king, and then moved my king to d6, black is still winning very cleanly here. The bishop is on pre, the knight is under attack, this pawn on e6 is collapsing, and after knight to d3, and then a move like like let's just say rook takes pawn, for example, there's no chance of losing the game and only black can win. And probably I can also start harassing the king with the rook and the bishops here, and there's just no way to be in trouble. But I start panicking here. I'm getting low on time. I take the knight, and after rook takes pawn, I move my king. Wei Yi takes the bishop on h5, and suddenly, out of nowhere, I'm down a pawn in the endgame. I'm down 5 seconds on the clock, and it's looking like my tournament is about to end. So I go bishop c1. Wei Yi takes a pawn. This is a mistake. Bishop to b4 would actually be winning on the spot, as white guards the pawn, and now white's free to move the king and push the p. Wei Yi takes, I take, we get king f7, and now I play the move king to c6. Now this position technically should be a draw, because if white plays e7, I can always sack the bishop and go into a drawn rook and bishop rook endgame. But at this point, with 23 seconds versus 17, it's very clear that Wei Yi will not want to push the pawn. So we get bishop f6, I play rook f2, move my king, go back, bishop e2, we get this, I go back, king e8, and now I play the move king d5. Here, Wei Yi goes king d7, I go rook d2, rook h5, king e4, king e8, and now I play the move rook to e2. Now, this move is simply a blunder here, but I'm low on time, I'm panicking, I don't know what I'm doing, but Wei Yi goes bishop to e7 here, missing a win on the spot with rook to e5, because after takes here, white can play bishop e7, and after bishop c1, white goes king f7, king to d3 here, and white goes bishop b4, bishop to g5, and actually, wait, no, not bishop b4. White goes, let me think about this, you guys. I'm trying to remember why this is winning. I think, why is white winning here? I'm apparently missing. White goes bishop f8, that's right. And after bishop g5, there's bishop g7 here. And at bishop d8, there's bishop f6. I move the bishop, white pushes the p. And if I go king c4, after bishop f6, takes, again the pawn gets through, it promotes, and white wins the game. But Wei Yi goes bishop e7. Now I go bishop b2, king f7, king d3, we got bishop f6, I pin, and now I play bishop a3. Now this, of course, loses to rook to h3, winning the bishop. By the way, I did see this when I played bishop a3, but I have nothing else I can do here. I've got 7 seconds, Wei Yi's got 11 seconds. I just have to pray that he doesn't find rook h3, and lo and behold, he does not. He plays king to e8, I go king e4, king d7, king f5, rook d2, and now I go back, we get check, king f4, rook d5, king e4, and Wei Yi plays rook a5. Now here I play king takes d4, which was basically a pre-move here, because when Wei Yi went rook a5, I was expecting him to play rook to e5, checking my king. So I take, Wei Yi takes, I go king c4, king e8, king b4, rook e3, rook h2, I move check, I go here, he queens, I check, he blocks, I play here, and now Wei Yi is able to play rook takes h7 with 0.01 seconds on the clock. I go king c3, and after rook h6, king d2, the game ends in a draw because Wei Yi runs out of time, but I have no pieces left on the board. So this game is very hard to judge, because obviously I completely outplayed Wei Yi from the early middle game. I was winning many ways, but then I blundered in the time scramble. I was completely lost, and I'm going to be frank. This endgame here from the very get-go, all the way back here, let's just start somewhere around here. This endgame, I should probably lose, I would say 90% of the time, being down 5 seconds on the clock here. But I get the miracle. He missed multiple wins. He missed rook e5. He missed rook h3 to win the bishop. And so when all is said and done, a draw seems like a relatively fair result. So this game ends in a draw. This means the match is tied 1-1. And now we go to the classic Armageddon. Now, in Armageddon, I decide I'm going to get black no matter what. After yesterday's game against Ali Reza, where I felt like the color played a huge role in the result, I told myself there's no way I'm not getting black. So I ended up bidding 6 minutes and 49 seconds. Wei Yi bid about 7 minutes and 50 seconds, or around there if I'm not mistaken. And this means I get black in the Armageddon game. Situation is very simple. If I draw or win, I am through to the final 8, the quarterfinals. If I lose, I am eliminated. So we get e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6. Same line here. We got this queen d7, knight e6. And now Wei Yi decides to castle like Cinderella. I go bishop e7, rook e1 castles, knight f1, c5, knight g3, rook d8. And now we get the move b3. I play knight to c6, Wei Yi goes bishop d2. And now I play this move b6. We got bishop to d3, and here I play a6 with the idea of b5 and c4 to try and attack this bishop, which is currently sitting on the long diagonal. We get a4. I go rook b8, Wei Yi plays knight f5, and now I play this move b5. Now the good thing here is I use a little bit of time to play b5, but the situation is clarifying very, very quickly here. I'm able to go for obvious ideas like c4 to kick the bishop, and white has to spend some time to try and figure out what to do. This is also good because when your opponent's thinking, especially in this Armageddon game where I have less time, I'm thinking on my opponent's time as well. So we get knight takes bishop, I take, Wei Yi trades the pawns, and now he plays the move h4. Here I play the move h6, and I'm actually very proud of the fact that I played this move in only 8 seconds. It's a move that might look a little bit scary because you're creating some weaknesses on the light squares on this diagonal, but at the same time, the threat of knight to g5 here is very dangerous. Say I go c4, we got something like bishop to f5 here. Again, h6 is fine, but let's just say I go bishop d7 as a sample line. White can play something like knight g5, and after takes, suddenly the Bs are super, super powerful for white. So I go h6, taking away any threats of knight g5 or bishop g5 here. Wei Yi plays c3, and now I play the move c4. We get pawn takes pawn, I take, bishop b1, and now I play the move knight to c5. Now again, I was thinking on my opponent's time. I initially wanted to play this move d4, but after d4 and the move queen to a4, the queen hits the knight, it hits the pawn, it creates a 90-degree right triangle, and I'm just not sure what I'm going to do. So I go knight c5. Now this move is a nice move because I can try to plop this knight on e4, d3, or b3 here. And additionally, I open up this diagonal for this light square bishop to try and pin the knight on f3. So you get bishop to e3, I go knight to e4 here, trying to slam the door shut on this long diagonal. And now we get the move knight to d4 being played by Wei Yi. Here I trade the knights, I take on h4, and now we get the move bishop c2. Now, Wei Yi would love to go f3, trying to win the knight. Say I move the knight, I do a bow test gambit and resign. If I move the queen, I lose the knight and the game as well. But white cannot play f3 here because there's queen takes rook simply checking the king. So you get bishop c2. I drop the queen back to e7, and now Wei Yi plays move rook a7. Of course, white could always trade the bishop and take the pawn in the center here, but with opposite color bishops and even material on the board, and the fact that time has already evened out, it means the chances of winning are close to nil. So we get rook a7. I play rook b7, rook a8, and now I play the move bishop to f5, over protecting this horse on e4. Wei Yi goes rook a1, I play rook b8, we get rook a7, I play rook d7, rook a8, rook d8, and now we get the move rook to a5. Here I play the move bishop to g6. I actually thought about playing this move rook b2, which is a top computer line, but after something here, I forget what exactly I saw, I was simply afraid that white had some... maybe I thought white could go bishop d1 with the idea of bishop to f3, and the pawn on d5 is hanging here, and I didn't see anything conclusive. But instead, I play the move bishop g6. This move, I think, is a very fundamentally sound move because now the bishop is guarded by the pawn, and I can try to move my knight every which way. We get bishop to a4, and now I go queen b7. We get the move e6, and here I play the move queen e7. Now, I did actually overlook this e6 move because if I were to take the pawn, there's rook a7, winning either the queen on b7 or creating the checkmate on g7 here, for example, with queen takes pawn. I did see e6 as soon as I moved, but the good thing here is that Wei Yi spent 30 seconds on this move, and while he was thinking about e6, I was already anticipating it, which is why I spent a bit of time, but I found a very good solution here with queen to e7. We get pawn takes pawn, bishop takes, and now I still remain up one pawn here. I've got 4 pawns versus 3. Wei Yi goes bishop f4, and now I play the move rook to a8. Now this move also, very, very good fundamental move from me here, because when I play rook to a8, I'm forcing more material off the board. Wei Yi goes bishop c6, I trade, and now I play the move queen to f6, attacking both of the bishops while attacking the queen on d4. When you combine that with this great knight that pressures his pawn on c3 as well, at this point, white is really struggling to keep the game going. On top of that, I'm also up a minute once again here, and remember, this is not a situation where I need to win. All I need is a draw to move on, so everything is finally looking good. But as I learned in the first 2 games of this match, you cannot relax, and here I'm still, even here when Wei Yi was thinking, I was already calculating lines as well. So he trades, he plays bishop h6 here. This is sort of the final nail in the coffin. Wei Yi could have played rook to a3. Had he played the move rook to a3, I was going to go h5 here and then bring my king up, and I didn't see any way for white to really be better. But the fact is, I was calculating this when Wei Yi was thinking about whether to trade the queens, so I already was well prepared, and this meant that I could try to push him on the clock as well. Instead, Wei Yi takes the pawn, I get knight takes c3, and now with the 2 connected pawns, the fact that I'm pushing my p in the middle of the board, there should be no danger left. We get king h2. I go d4, pushing the p. We get bishop d2. And now I find another excellent move, bishop to d5. Now, this move may not be the best move in the position, but what it does here is it forces a bishop off the board. If white goes bishop b5 or bishop a4, I will simply trade the knight for the bishop here. And with only a rook and bishop on the board, when you look at the time situation as well as the position, there's zero risk of me losing. So even if bishop d5 is not objectively the best move, it trades more material, and considering the match situation where a draw is good enough, this means I am finally about to win the whole thing. So we get rook to c5 here. Wei Yi could have taken on c3 and then played this move rook to c5 here, for example. But after d takes c3, if white were to take, I have rook to d4 here, guarding the pawn. If white takes the pawn, this probably is a draw with a rook and 2 pawns versus rook, bishop, and pawn. But with me having a minute 52 versus his 35 seconds, the flag is out of the question. And if anybody's trying to win, it is black. So Wei Yi goes rook c5 instead. I trade the bishops, and now I go knight to e4, forking the bishop and the pawn. We get bishop to a5. I play rook d5, attacking the bishop. Bishop to b6, and now I play the move pawn to d3, continuing to push my piece through. And at this point, Wei Yi decides to resign the game. If he takes this pawn on c4, my d pawn gets all the way down the board and promotes. If white goes bishop e3, I still play d2. I can take with the knight here, or the rook. Probably I would take with the rook, frankly, because even if this position is not an instant win here, there's no way of me losing the game. And with a minute 39 versus 21 seconds, I will never be in danger. So after d3, Wei Yi resigns this game. This means that I end up getting the big victory in the Armageddon against Wei Yi. This means that I now move on to the quarterfinals, the last 8 in this event. A very, very tough match. There were many moments when I could have won, many moments when I could have lost. Ultimately, I get the job done. I'm not super happy about the quality of my play, but we do move on. Now, I do not actually know my pairing yet for the quarterfinal match. It's going to be some kind of drawing or redistributing of the brackets, so we won't find out. But I do believe that I will play either Magnus Carlsen, Arjun Erigaisi, or Levon Aronian tomorrow. Not sure who I'm going to play in the quarterfinals, but it's going to be a 4-game match coming up with the same time control of 10 minutes and 0 second increment. So it should be really, really hyped. So I'm glad it's all over. I'm glad I move on, and hopefully tomorrow will be better. But that is going to do it for our recap for day number 2 of the Esports World Cup chess competition being held here in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. If you guys are not already subscribed to the channel, make sure that you smash that subscribe button below, and we'll be back with a recap after day number 3. For me, I'm going to go relax, fall asleep as soon as possible, and but hopefully tomorrow will be another victorious day. But who knows? So, hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a great rest of your evening, and I'll see you very soon. Have a good one. Bye.